we said we were talking about how the ease of doing business, and that's mostly based on what our president has said recently. But joining me virtually to further discuss is Aliyu Ilias, is an economic and development expert. Thank you for joining us this morning on the program.
Thank you. Good morning for having me.
Now, one of our top stories, before we get into our conversation for the day, one of our top stories, or a few of them, is the fact that Dangote has decided to go and, or rather signed an agreement with Ethiopian government to create a $2.5 billion fertilizer plant in Ethiopia. I'm sure some people out there might ask, why couldn't he do that here in Nigeria? What's your take?
Right. Thank you. I think he has gotten a land located at around Ogun State to actually start the largest fertilizer company in Africa also. So I think he's also doing it at home. I think he will have the penchant of starting at home. So I think I don't know if they have kickoff, but that is the plan. The biggest fertilizer company around Ogun State.
Okay,
So,
so
and if you actually move to other African country, I've not seen anything bad in that. It's actually expanding. And I'm sure if you actually also bring them here, it will still bring back the money back home, which is the beautiful part of it. So it's not bad if he invests in other African country and also bring back the profits from it back to Nigeria to reinvest. So, and that's what we're actually asking for. We hope they will tolerate him more in that country.
okay, all right. Now, let's look at another story there that earlier we looked at, and that's about the 2026 to 2030 development goals, according to, of course, this one is ending now. And do you think that the 2021, or rather the 2020-2025 development goals, do you think if we achieved anything at all, or do you think we're able to do anything with it at all? Although it's a post-COVID era plan, but were we able to do anything at all with that midterm goals?
Right. I think it actually achieved him. I want to recall the name of one of them that President Muhammad Buhari bring into place. You recall that President Muhammad Buhari suffered two things: recession and also COVID-19. And he bring I try to recall the name of what he called it. And I think they actually achieved their goal because you cannot just come out of COVID, come out of recession and still find the economy this way. The fact is that we will expect a better economy, but nevertheless, I think that goal, that short-term goal, achieve it. But is it ERGP? Yes, economic recovery, ERGP, I think. So I think he
Recovery
actually achieved
Development
it.
Plan or something.
But the fact is that the new one that is ongoing now is a problem. There's a particular one ongoing now, which I think does not carry along the state, the local government, and the private sector. And I always want to go back to President Olusegun Obasanjo during his era. During his era, uh, he has what we call needs. We now have, and that is the Nigeria Economic Empowerment Development Strategy. So it now cascade down to states. State now call their own seed. It's cascaded down to local government. They call their own lead. And private sector also key into it. So that's the type of economic development plan that we actually want, that will carry everybody along, and people actually key into it to actually bring about development. Such will have, that buy-in, just like we have it during the ERGP.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you so much. Let's get to our conversation for today. As we are well aware, President Bola Tinubu has repeatedly assured Nigerians and investors that the economy is on the path to stability, citing recent improvements in access to foreign exchange, the relative stability of the naira, and efforts to lower the cost of production. However, on the ground, many business operators argue that the ease of doing business remains fraught with challenges. Forex access and naira stability. Let's look at those things that were quoted by the president. Central bank's interventions and reforms in the foreign exchange market have led to increased liquidity, giving importers and manufacturers better access to forex compared to last year's scarcity. While this has eased some pressure, businesses still complain about volatility risk, transaction delays, and widening gaps between official and parallel rates. Now, cost of production. The government has pushed policies aimed at reducing the cost of production, particularly through energy sector reforms, port efficiency drives, and promises of infrastructure investments. Yet, high fuel costs, electricity tariffs, logistics bottlenecks, and new tax regimes continue to weigh heavily on manufacturers and SMEs. Many argue that this cost still cancel out any perceived gains from forex stability. Ease of doing business ranking. Nigeria has yet to significantly improve in global competitiveness indices. Businesses highlight persistent issues such as multiple taxation, regulatory uncertainty, bureaucracy at ports, and insecurity in supply chain. This is where you do so well at and where you always talk about. Now, these factors directly contradict the president's optimism and continue to deter both domestic and foreign investments. Now, that's a bit of more and more of that. But now let's look at some of these things as they've been said. Forex access and naira stability. Yes, of those who have to deal with forex, you've spoken about being a manufacturer, having to do business, cost of production, logistics bottlenecks. Some of these policies, hopefully by the next year, especially for the tax regime, hopefully by next year, when the taxes come in, we'll see better things. However, currently, we have manufacturers who are lamenting heavily about this new customs things. So yes, bureaucracy at the ports is supposed to get easy, but then if a manufacturer is going to have to incur more money to bring in products, how does that actually help with the ease of doing business? Because some of these reforms, at the end of the day, how would it help with the ease of doing business for our manufacturers and therefore trickle down to the average Nigerian?
Right. I think those things mentioned by President Bola Tinubu were also the problem of business. So I don't see anything this government has done to ease business. Let me chronicle it down for you. Now, the first thing is forex. Forex is one of the what is discouraging to do business. If you can have $1 to 1,500, how will a businessman actually survive in such a regime? That's not correct. So, with the government policy, current ongoing policy is even discouraging to people doing business. Then, having discussed about that, let's also go back to NPR. Now, if I'm a business person, as I am a business person, I will now borrow money and 30%. I would rather not do business because to borrow 100 million and pay 30 million, that simply means that there is no profit at all. So there is no use of doing business in that area. Then, in terms of supply chain that you made mention, that is even the worst area. You will recall that the child actually moving item from one place to another is a serious issue. You recall that I made mention of a bureaucratic bottleneck in this beautiful studio several times. And what am I trying to say is that if you want to move an item from one place to the other, you have to face a lot of things. And when you're talking about ease of doing business, also let's take it to the custom. Do you know how many times custom have increased the duty? Do you know how much it costs people to do business? People are not important at all because of the value of naira. So when you talk about ease of doing business, I don't see where this government is encouraging people to do businesses. If at all government give that we don't even see, the grant is going to go away because of the cost of doing business. Is it the cost you want, which is fuel, or we want to talk about, let's even PMS and talk about electricity or even gas? Which one do you want to talk about? Virtually everything have so high. I want government to be preaching that very soon to be they have actually put things in place to ease business challenges. For me, I don't think we have had it difficult at this level to do business in Nigeria.
Okay, Now, I want us to talk about some of the things you've mentioned. I'm going to go to the Forex conversation part of it now. How effective has CBN's reform been in bridging the gap between the official and parallel market? I know that prior to now, before the floating of the Naira, you could get on the official market 460 something naira or so to $1. But when you come to the parallel markets, is like times 3 of that amount. Now, after these reforms, how have they been able to bridge the gap? Is it now easier? Do I necessarily have to wait to go to the bank, or I could just go to the parallel market? The difference isn't much. Is it better for businesses now with that floating or the reforms done so far?
Well, for me, I don't think it has bring any difference. Yes, they have unified it. But recall before, if you're a manufacturer and you want to import some things, you can approach government and get some succor from them. But now, I don't think there's any window for a manufacturer to actually assess such or small businesses until you are conscious about production. Because a productive economy is an economy that can actually uh, uh, make people better in a country. So for us to be productive, that simply means that you must give people access. So for a business people, I think there's no country that doesn't have special plan for them. So I expect for manufacturers to have special waivers, a special opportunity to do business. Let me also remind you that most foreign direct investment that will have like GSK, a lot of them have actually left, also do their business in isolation. They also do with small businesses and business that actually exchange and do then. So for me, I think there should be a window by a manufacturer can actually access. Government does not really necessarily need to give manufacturer the money. So government can say, okay, give us the bill, let us pay directly to the company you want to pay for across the shore at a particular rate. That would have helped to reduce the cost of items in India. Remember, even CBN bring out and said cost of inputs for industries are going higher, and that's a function of.
Okay. All right. So let me ask this now. Do you think that it would be wise of some sort to um, have some reprieve, or let's say go back to how things were? Would that in any way affect one, production, cost of production, and then in turn, cost of living for Nigerians?
Right. So going back to where we are coming from may be a tall order and it appear impossible. But going forward, what is government putting in place to make sure they support this? So going back, like I said, we will not stop flotation, but you cannot tell me there's a country in the world that will float its entire currency. No, you will have some windows. So government can now create some windows for, let's give you an example. We have a GSK and other in manufacturing, I mean in pharmaceutical sector leaving the economy. I was expect by now a government to empower people like EMZO among others and create what is called import substitution, so that you can empower them to the extent that they can now produce those things in that's been sold at 1,600 naira before. It is now 10,000, 11,000 naira. Look at the whooping 400, is it 400 or about 800 percent increase? These are the things that we need to look at critically. So government can create a window for them. It is not too late to do that, but that you go back again. No, remember CBN has bring about a lot of framework. At a particular point, they said it's the importation that's causing the problem. A ban on some products, that's causing the problem. At a point, they said it is uh, cryptocurrency that led to the arrest and what have you of people behind it. At the point, they said it's Bureau de Change. And Bureau de Change, they try to reduce them to the barest minimum level. So they have put up different framework that even appear like a cut and join approach to it. But be that as it may, what I will canvas for is to create a window for manufacturing businesses to access fund. I mean, to access forex at a particular level so that they can actually use it to do business and create a ease of doing business in that area, and also transfer reduction of costs to people.
Okay, let's go to the energy part of the conversation. Yes, there's a band, different bands, band A's, band B's, band C's, and whatnot. Do you think that it is imperative, just like I think over here in Abuja, we have something called the industrial zone. Is it imperative that of some sort that maybe the government should create some sort of industrial zone for where manufacturers should go, and energy prices maybe could be lowered for them in that zone? Or are there ways to help this happen? Because there's actually a ban on importation of solar panels. How can we help? Because that's a major cost of production, and it's quite heavy too. So how can the government put things in place, mechanisms in place in the area of energy to help the manufacturers, of course, in turn, the average Nigerian?
Right, right. It is already there. We have a place called Newi that have business concentration. We have place called Aba that have business concentration. In Lagos, we have place like Aba. In Abeokuta, we have a place like that. In Kano, we have like this shelter. Then in Abuja, now they are there already. And government has done well. One of the beautiful things President Bola Tinubu also did was the unbundling of the electricity sector, whereby it is now open. States can now have their own generation, their own transmission of power, and their own distribution, just like Enugu is exploring among other states. Now, the problem now lies that it does not come cheap. So for those people at the industrial area, government can actually support them. They can also come together to have their own energy generation, transmission and distribution, but it doesn't come cheap. And that's why as they are traveling to Japan, traveling to Brazil, these are the area I expect them to broker, a partnership from, so that these people can actually come and identify this area to actually create electricity for them so that it will become more cheaper. And from that, they'll consider making things much more easier for Nigeria. Then in terms of energy, I can tell you a major problem in Nigeria is energy cost. Unless Nigeria gets energy security, we will continue to lament and to experience inflation and cost of production in Nigeria. Because if you look at it, let's take it from PMS. PMS rose from 200 naira, 197 naira to about 1,000 naira, and now to about 890 naira. Definitely, it will have a ripple effect or effects. In fact, it is even multiplier effect in this case, and affects people. You also see we move from normal electricity payment style to band A, band B, as it were. So until government is conscious about those things, because government, I even say that they are creating CNG to actually cushion the challenges of transportation, but it has not to reflect. And this is down 2 years down the line, going to 3 years. You recall the day they removed fuel subsidy, they said they have created alternative, and the alternative is CNG. But I can tell you it has not reflected, because if is only 5% of cars in Nigeria can access CNG, see.
All right, so while we're waiting for that situation to be fixed up. All right, Dr. Aliyu Ilias.
Right.
We lost
Like
you
I
earlier.
said,
If you could take back what you were saying.
okay. But what I was saying is that we must create a solution to energy problem. Any country that does not have energy security is going to continue to have a serious problem. Unless the energy is reduced or the cost of energy is bearable, it will keep on they will keep on transferring that to the consumers. It's have multiplier effect. So the nutshell, government must create a solution.
All right, we're still waiting for that situation
It
to.
have a necessary impact.
Okay. All right, doctor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Now, let's look at away from here in Nigeria and let's go over to on the African scene, the after. Now, to what extent is Nigeria aligning with our ease of doing business reforms with the after requirements? That's the AFCFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement for competitiveness. How well do you think we're doing? Our reforms so far, do you think they're going to help us be able to actually compete? And most importantly, when do we expect that this trade agreement will come on stream fully, that we could see the impact it will have, not just to Nigeria, but the African continent as a whole?
Right. So, African Continental Free Trade area are actually expected to expand business opportunity in Africa. So, some African countries like Ghana have started taking advantage of it. I've not seen a record where Nigeria take advantage of that. And we should be the best beneficiary. Just like when Malema was saying, Julius Malema of South Africa came to MB and saying that Nigerians should have single currency. I mean, Africa should be able to do business. My thought was on FTA agreements. That if Nigeria cannot take advantage, because everything is supposed to start from Nigeria and in West Africa. Nigeria have to have the highest population, the highest purchasing power. And in GDP, if you reduce the deflator of foreign currency, Nigeria still have the highest GDP, and we cannot take advantage of our West Africa. It's a problem. So, and for me, even the agreement, some of us argue that you don't even sign everything. Why not say that in terms of textile, don't allow anybody to bring textile to Nigeria. We are trying to have rice sufficiency. Nobody should bring that. Abba can give us a shoe as expected. Don't bring such to Nigeria. So until Nigeria realizes standard and set the area we want to actually do. Now is actually the aim of AFCFTA is to want to expand the market access to markets, which is also good. To also bring about economic growth as it were, and to also increase the exports as it were. So then to also attract investment. The challenge is that Nigeria have not taken advantage of it because we are not doing the needful and we are not giving them the conditionalities as supposed to be. And that's why South Africa as well say that no, you cannot sign everything, and they are choosy in terms of what they actually allow because they are the most industrialized country in Africa. So we must do better to industrialize our economy if we want to benefit from African continental free trade area.
All right, since we're moving away from Nigeria and the happenings inside the country, let's talk about the foreign direct investment. Under President Tinubu so far, how would you say that these reforms have actually helped to attract foreign direct investment?
Well, when we talk about foreign direct investments, I think we are still having most of them in paper. It has not actually transformed to investment. You recall the last Brazil that they actually went, uh, government discussed about having Petrobras coming back to. We are waiting for that. The only thing I saw that was a success in that journey was that there will be direct flight from Nigeria to Sao Paulo in Brazil, which the airpiece is going to be the one, which is another opportunity. But for me, I don't think we should be looking at what will benefit from those people. We should also be thinking about what we are going to take down to them, just like the shea butter or shea nut ban. We should have also look at what we are also exporting because our economy is an economy that is export driven. Can take advantage of it. So foreign direct investment, I've seen president travel to different countries, China, even Qatar, and what have you. We have not seen it. And to see foreign direct investment coming to Nigeria, there are some things we must put in place, among which is our economic indicators, especially macroeconomy. We must work on our inflation rates. I know we have seen it coming down, want it to continuously coming down. So the stability of the economy is key. We must also do more in our GDP because they want to see those things. That was part of what government tried to use rebase of the GDP to attract, so that they will see that we are big in terms of economic size. We must also work on our security. Where there is insecurity, people do not want to come there to invest. So these are the things that we must ensure that we come in agreement with, to actually develop it, make it better, to attract foreign direct investment. Maybe by next year, seeing some of the results. Now, I have not seen result of those journeys.
Now, we understand revenue generation is very, very, very important. But how can it be balanced, revenue generation and a business-friendly environment, so that investors are not turned away, they're not pushed away? How can this work together?
Well, if you look at this President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration so far, I think they have penchant and commitment to generate more revenue. Because if you look at all the sectors of the economy, look at custom, they have increased the revenue so much that people find it difficult to actually even import items to Nigeria. If you look at FIRS, they're looking at a way of increasing the revenue more, so that they can actually get more. So now, and when you have penchant for increasing of revenue, I think you are also pushing people back in terms of doing business. You recall that president just stopped the 5% increment in the telecom tax, because he himself has realized that this thing is causing serious problem, and that's why you cannot see people importing to Nigeria or want to do business, because of the levies that come with it. So I think government need to be watchful and be people oriented when they are bringing out revenue generation policies or framework.
All right, now let's go to the private sector. What can the private sector do to help in shaping policies that would affect rather ease of doing business?
Well, I follow a lot of private sector, especially through uh, chambers of commerce and NASIMA. I've seen different program, and they've been invited to different program to actually be a pointer to federal government that these are the way they want them to do more. The last one was about supply chain, and by Lagos Chambers of Commerce and Industry. This actually shows that there's a lot of bureaucratic bottleneck for importers and for Nigerians to do business in that area. So I think they will. We private sector player must continue to voice out, just like this opportunity you are giving to us, to actually tell the government that doing business is not easy in Nigeria because of the level of interest and cost of inputs. And you can even see that there's what is called shrinkflation. Most organizations now are reducing the of people. Everybody is looking at the way it big, but the content is actually small. When you ask this content, but they buy this, what I see that most things that we used to buy that have the quality and the quantity have reduced drastically.
Okay. Now, can Nigeria realistically achieve a significant leap in its ease of doing business ranking within the next 5 years?
Right. I recall that when the current Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment was in the ease of doing business organization as a head, they were able to do a couple of things, but it's much more of paper, whereby when you register a company, the thing follows it. You don't have to move around, whereby, they do a lot of things paper. But now we must start doing ease of business that is much more practical. Now we want a one-stop shop for importers. Instead of you to engage SON, engage NAFDA, engage port heads, engage police, you can actually have it. And maybe that's what they are trying to do with NSW, National Single Window, whereby you have So they must start looking at that bureaucratic bottleneck. I can tell you, a country like, the only thing that they got right was ease of doing business for their people. To the extent that even in Nigeria, China is having chambers of, I mean, a free trade zone, because they make sure that most of the things is much more easier. So a conscious country will make everything easy for their citizens to do business, right from the cost of energy, cost of transportation, supply chain process, registration of companies, and even tax payment process. So these are the things they must do for private sector, so that private sector can actually do that. Then in terms of private sector participation, it simply means that must also continuously, through association, giving a pointer to the federal government where they want intervention.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Aliyu Ilias, for your insights on the program this morning, talking to us about ease of doing business in Nigeria. The promises, the things the president says, are they realistic? Are they something we can see on ground? Thank you so much for your insights on the program.
Thank you for.
And that's it. We've been discussing this morning on the ease of doing business in Nigeria. The president says, "Oh, things are a bit better," but do these translate to realistical things in the country? And you've heard our guest there this morning talking to us and saying some things need to be done. I don't think we've actually done so much or done so well, according to Dr. Aliyu Ilias. We're looking to have some more things be done. And of course, it's not just the government alone. Everybody needs to come together to make this work. Private sector, of course, though most policies and most implementation comes from the government. But however, away from just the federal, but at the state level, at the local level, it's a team effort to see that Nigeria gets to where it needs to get to, being the real giant of Africa in every sense of the word, and of course, the biggest economy in Africa and one of the biggest economies on the global front. That's the much we have for you this morning on the program. I've been your host, Chiamaka Nwafor. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms for more of our news, programs, and documentaries. Same time, same place next week. Bye for now.